Welcome to Magic Muggle, a Harry Potter Aftershow. I'm Eric Sequeira, aka Mr. Honest, your host and local Ravenclaw, podcasting from the tallest tower in Hogwarts. And this is it. The very first step into the wizarding world. For us, at least. I know many people have been to this wizarding world before. However, this is Magic Muggle's first endeavor. I've been dreaming of doing this show for a long time, and finally sitting down with the Sorcerer's Stone, or Philosopher's Stone, from wherever you're from. I grew up calling it Sorcerer's Stone. It's been years since I've read these chapters, and while I knew the beats, I didn't expect how imaginative it would feel to return to them, especially now. By the end of chapter 3, when the storm is raging and the door gets slammed in, I genuinely felt that spark, that familiar tug in the chest. Something was waking up in me again. So let's go back to the beginning. The cupboard, the cat, and the chaos that's about to change everything. If you missed the intro episode, it's only 2 minutes. It kind of lays out our game plan, which I'll just tell you here real quick. 3 chapters an episode. And if it's going to be 2 chapters, like for example, if we do 3 chapters an episode and we get to the end of this book, we'll have 2 chapters, a 2-chapter episode finale. Also, I've decided recently that the length of the episodes will vary anywhere between 15 minutes, I'm going to say minimum, to 25, 30, even 40 minutes, depends on the content of the chapters and how much we have to discuss. I'm going to also tell you in this first episode, before we start breaking it down, I grew up with ADHD, undiagnosed. I think that's completely fine, and I'm okay with who I became, but now that I've been treated for it, it's kind of awesome to go back to the story. And the biggest reason is I could never get through Order of the Phoenix because I couldn't get my head around it, and I got so distracted so easily. So I haven't actually read the last 3 books in this series, which is going to be really special when we get there, and it'll feel earned. So I'm being honest with you up front. I've only seen the movies from Order of the Phoenix onward, and I haven't read what is some people's favorite books of those last 3. So I'm very, very excited to be doing this and getting to that point to earn my own personal redemption of my childhood. Okay, let's go right into the first chapter of Sorcerer's Stone, Chapter 1, The Boy Who Lived. This chapter, it's like a quiet drumbeat in the distance. It opens in the most mundane possible world. The Dursleys, their boring house, their pride in being perfectly normal. Thank you very much. Mr. and Mrs. Dursley of number 4 Privet Drive were proud to say that they were perfectly normal. Thank you very much. This is a quote from the book, okay? I think perfectly normal to them is, I'm going to compare it to a phrase I heard on a TV show called Better Call Saul. Metaphorically, they live in a ugly house with a beautiful view. That's the metaphor I'm using here. And to quote Better Call Saul on a Harry Potter series, that's where we're starting here. That's a cheeky opening line. Wouldn't you believe? The tone tells us right away, this isn't really going to be your typical story. We're being invited to watch something very weird happen in a normal world. And I forgot how eerie it is at first, because we're going at this chapter like an outsider, and we don't see a lot of chapters like this in the Harry Potter series. I know this because I have read through the first few books multiple times, and the first chapter is definitely an outside-in type perspective of what are the wizards, who are these people, who is this, who are these people Vernon keeps seeing, and kind of love the mystery and all of that. It's special. We get to meet some very important and amazing characters at the very beginning of this book, even before we get to know Harry, more important than you could ever know. See, clearly from the outside in this chapter, something big has happened in the wizarding world, right? And we see McGonagall, who we learn a little bit later in the chapter, is sitting all day as a cat watching the Dursleys. Dumbledore just casually turning off every street lamp with the deluminator. That thing is so cool. I have the memory of me seeing Sorcerer's Stone as a kid, in that image is ingrained in my head. It's hard to imagine another scene like actually doing that. That's why when we get to the HBO series, we're going to have a lot of reflection and comparisons. It'll be fun. But I really appreciate the deluminator. And there's like a whole starry backdrop to this in my mind. This chapter, the whispers, the falling stars, the whole wizarding world celebrating, but we're just seeing it from the outside. Like I said, the boy survived and the Dark Lord has gone. It's so quiet and so heavy. And Dumbledore to be carrying this news and making a plan for Harry Potter just to keep him a normal boy. And he not everyone agrees with this, but I think it makes him so much more humble. And being with the Dursleys, it literally is going to make him who he is as a person. I appreciate the meeting of Dumbledore and McGonagall together, and then for Hagrid to come in on Sirius Black's bike. And if you're reading that for the first time, you don't really know who Sirius Black is, but we will eventually. Even now I didn't know that she would write about Sirius Black in the very first chapter of the series. It's so interesting. So I think when Hagrid arrives on the motorbike is when the magic really starts to kick in. Like, who is this giant man coming in on this motorbike? It's dramatic, but it's also deeply emotional, this first chapter, because there's a baby involved. And whenever there's a baby involved, no matter what, even if you don't know the full story, it's honestly, the stakes are higher. Harry, we get short kind of glimpses into what happened with Harry and how the Dark Lord Voldemort tried to kill him and he didn't. And when he tried to kill Harry, he perished. So Harry becomes this phenomenon, this hero. And like I said a minute ago, I just want to emphasize, I think it was genius of Dumbledore to let him live with the Dursleys. I don't think Dumbledore would have anticipated them putting him under the stairs to sleep. He knew they were bad, and McGonagall tried to warn him, but I just wouldn't imagine that he would think that they're that bad, especially the way that he gets. I'm guessing he decides the letters start getting delivered to them in a few moments. We'll talk about that. I like to think that Dumbledore, I like to think honestly he didn't know they were as bad as they were. So they leave him at the Dursleys, and the final line of the first chapter to this incredible series, to Harry Potter, the boy who lived. Cue the chill down your spine. Chapter 2, The Vanishing Glass. I remember as a kid, these chapters did seem massive to me when I was reading them in the 4th grade. And I'm not going to lie, they're longer and about as long as I remember. The Vanishing Glass is a fantastic chapter, and it hit so much harder than I remembered. You're not just reading about a boy in a bad home. You're feeling how small and invisible Harry's world really is. In quotes, Harry was used to spiders because the cupboard under the stairs was full of them. Just nonchalantly, Harry we're talking about spiders. This gives him a great advantage to a point later in the series. I'm going to say it next book. We're gonna see that not being scared of spiders come into play. And that's all I'll say on that matter. What a heartbreaking line, though. It's just dropped there so casually, but it tells you everything. He's not just neglected, he's practically buried. And then we get hints of magic, right? The dream of a flying motorcycle, the incident with a school jumper shrinking, the snake at the zoo in this exact chapter. That moment always stuck with me as a kid. Thanks, Harry said, and the snake winked. He winked at him. Now, I know there's theories about what this snake goes on to be, and I wonder if I will actually learn this truth reading the books, but I will not explain the theory yet because it goes too far into the future. And there's going to be a lot of holding back on that, and I would like to really refrain from comparing the books to the movies, this in the movie and that in the movie. But I just have to admit to you that I grew up on the movies. I grew up knowing Harry Potter from the first movie, and I, as a kid, was obsessed with this movie. I don't think of any in the series I've seen one more than this movie. So reading the book is so refreshing because what's ingrained in my head is the movie, thinking I know the whole book. But there's so many little details in this book, and you just get to slow down and kind of see a little bit more of a bird's eye view of every situation and in some there's cutting, which I think the HBO series will be great. They're going to add Peeves is the first thing I think of. We'll meet Peeves soon. he'll probably be like in the HBO. So I think they're going to use things that they weren't able to use for time in the movie. But back to back to this chapter in the Vanishing Glass. The whole bit with the snake, it was gold. And the way the Dursleys treat Harry, it's the biggest factor in this chapter. You go so quickly to knowing how they see him and how they treat him, and how just all the toys Dudley gets on his birthday and how spoiled he is. The fact that he's living under the stairs, in the next chapter, they're like, how does he know? How do they know we're keeping him? And you can sense that Mr. Dursley is intimidated, and that really does go to show that he knows he's doing something wrong. It's child abuse. I mean, let me just be the first to say it. It hasn't been said. If it hasn't been said, that they are completely abusing him. And I'm not like saying this because it's funny, like in a laughing voice. I'm saying it because of how like serious it actually is, and how horrible they are to this kid when he did nothing wrong. Just preconceived notions. And karma does come to bite you in the butt in that sense. I'd like to wonder how much retconning J.K. Rowling did during the writing of these books. Like, in terms of, like, things that happen later that totally feel like they're foreshadowed now, like the spiders. I mean, from what I've read and what, everyone says, there's probably, like, not any good sign of that, because she's doing it right. If she is doing, like, retconning, she's actually just going into her book and putting more love into it and making through lines. So I can kind of see and totally feel that vibe. So going to the zoo wasn't originally a plan for Harry, but for some reason his neighbor wasn't available. No one was available to watch him, and they decided to take him along. And I'm going to tell you this right now. Already I forget. I don't know if Mr. Dursley says this during both the book and the movie, or just the movie. No funny business. But that's what I think of. That is definitely what I think of. I'm breaking my rule already about no movies. I'm Eric Sequeira. You're getting to know me. We're going to have a fun time on this podcast. I could just already tell. I could just tell already. Chapter 3, The Letters from No One. Okay. This is truly where the tension builds, and it really builds. And I love to think of the Vanishing Glass as karma being dished out, being ready to come back in Chapter 3, and it will be dished back out towards the opposite direction in the Dursleys. And I'd say this is a great view into Mr. Dursley's complete disassociation with the fact that the wizarding world is trying to contact Harry. And there's some sort of protection he has over Harry that it's like, if he doesn't like Harry so much, like we see it, even as an adult, I'm like, why doesn't he just let him go to the wizarding school? Well, maybe he's already thinking that far ahead, like, I won't have a wizard coming home from school over the summer because he does not like wizards and witches and that whole world, similar to his wife. I'm sure we'll get to know a lot more about that, especially in these books. Who could forget the iconic line, "No post on Sundays," he reminded them cheerfully as he spread marmalade on his newspapers. There's no damn letters today. Like, he's so proud and so happy and just completely content and aware that for some reason these letters, they ain't coming today. I love how unhinged he gets, like, through the whole chapter. The story really is Mr. Dursley's the first few chapters. Like, his reaction to it is kind of a good example of how a lot of the Muggles would react to magic in general. It would be like oh my God, magic! They're gonna try and take over the world. Like, that's why they keep their whole worlds in secrecy. It's really interesting how they hide it, but it does make sense because it's magic, and magic you can do nearly anything with. But just after no post on Sundays, they all come flying out of the fireplace, which is the little tiny, not the tiny, but the illustrations at the beginning of each chapter. I totally took that for granted. I love them. I love the image of this chapter with the fireplace and the letters. I think it's fantastic. And then they run. Well, Mr. Dursley makes them run. He makes them pack everything and go off to a hut on a rock in the middle of the sea, which is wild behavior. And then that moment, midnight, Harry's birthday. This is where Harry's spending and how he's spending his birthday. Is it fair? No, but what's about to happen? The midnight storm is raging, and boom, boom, boom. Someone's knocking on that door outside. I felt it, that chill, the excitement that everything is about to change moment. This is the spark. It's not Hogwarts yet, but it's the beginning of magic entering Harry's life. So we can talk about some of the themes in these first 3 chapters. What stood out to me the most reading these chapters again is how much space the story gives itself. It's slow. It's quiet. It gives you more character development instead of jumping right into magic, witches and wizard nonsense. You build up to that. And it makes you notice the little things too, like how thick the pages feel, or how much Harry internalizes before even saying a word. By the way, I got the Harry Potter 7-book trunk box set. Yes, I splurged because this is my new dream, making this podcast and enjoying the books to the fullest. And that, for me, is the most nostalgic. I pick up those books and look at them and every day, and they make me just feel so excited to have them. And it's just like a symbolism yet literal thing that reminds me of the journey we are embarking on. I'm glad you're here for it, and thank you for being here for it. And I love that this podcast and show is giving me permission to sit with those moments, the little moments, the ones that go maybe forgotten. It's what kind of quietly helps build out the backbone of this story. Even just reading these 3 chapters has me more focused and more imaginative, like a part of my brain that I hadn't used in a while just lit back up. It probably to do with something with my childhood. And I don't know. It's very nice. It's giving nostalgia, especially talking to you about it. It's giving great nostalgia. And that's the first 3 chapters of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. So thank you for joining me on this very special first episode. If you're reading along or just reminiscing, I really hope that you felt that flicker of magic like I did. Our next episode will cover chapters 4 to 6 and will drop together with this one as a 2-part premiere. So you can go right into the next one or save it for tomorrow, whatever works for you. From here on out, new episodes release every Saturday at 10 a.m. Central Time. Email your reflections to magicmugglepod@gmail.com. That's magicmugglepod@gmail.com. I want to hear from you, your thoughts. How much do you love the story? Are you excited to revisit it? In the time between this episode and the next one, you could technically read the whole book. Do you feel that kind of nostalgia showing up as we slow down and stretch it out and kind of look deeper into the crevices? Can we look deeper into the crevices? Is this enough digging for you? I want to hear all of it. MagicMugglePod@gmail.com. And if you'd like to support the show, there's a tip jar in the About section. Never expected, always appreciated. And I just want to thank you one more time for listening and embarking on this journey with me. It's going to be a winding and amazing road, and I'm going to enjoy every minute of it. Thank you so much for listening and being here. Until next time, wands down, hearts full.